Another useful part of the interface that we haven't talked about up to this point is outline view. This is sometimes called the tree because it consists of different branches which can be expanded and collapsed. For the various different branches, there are usually context menus if you right-click. So for instance, I can right-click on boundary conditions, and there's some options to choose from. Or I can right-click on outlets, for instance, and I can display all of the outlets. And then if I right-click on wall, I can add that to the graphics from the context menu. So the point is, when you see the items in the tree here, you might want to right-click and see what kind of options are available in the context menu. A neat thing you can do with the tree is filter it. So if I type OUT, then you can see it clears everything from the outline view except the ones that begin with OUT. I can just use the X here to clear the current filter. You can also use wildcard characters. So if I type an asterisk, then LET, I get all of the inlets and outlets. So that's another way to narrow down what you want to see. Sometimes, maybe say you just want to see the boundary conditions while you're setting boundary conditions, just start typing boundary, and then only the boundary conditions are there. Or maybe you want to do something with air, so just type air, and you can quickly find where air is located. One other thing I want to point out here is that with the filter, it shows you not just the items that you filter, but also the entire hierarchy within the outline view that leads up to that item. So that can help you understand exactly what the item is and where it's located. There are items that you can do either from the outline view or from one of the ribbon tabs. So for instance, in physics, I can turn on energy by going like this, or I can right-click on that in the tree and also turn it on. So the takeaway is that you often have different options for how to open up panels and how to define your problem, and you just want to be aware that those options exist. Neither way is better than the other. I can open this panel here, or I can open it like that, and you can do it whatever way is most natural to you. Now when you're using the ribbon, if for whatever reason you think it's taking up too much space, you can collapse it and buy yourself a little bit more area to work with. When the ribbon's collapsed, if you need to perform an operation from one of the tab commands, just click on the tab, perform the operation, close it, and then the ribbon and everything will just collapse again. Anyway, I normally like to be able to see everything in the ribbon while I'm working, so I'll probably just return it to the normal view. You probably noticed that in the center of the window there's what's called a task page, and some of the things that you select, whether you do that in the ribbon or in the tree, will bring up a corresponding task page. For instance, if I click on boundaries, then I get the boundary conditions task page, and in the boundary conditions task page itself, you'll notice that there are some options for how to arrange things. Right now they're arranged in list view, but you can also group them by name or by zone type, and there are similar options in the outline view too, so these grouping options correspond to the grouping options in the task page. In this particular model, it probably doesn't make much difference because there are only a few boundaries to start with, but in larger models it can be helpful to arrange by name or arrange by type. You can also filter items here, so if I type OU, I get the outlets. Or if I type asterisk LET, I get the inlet, and then if I add an asterisk at the end, I get the outlets too. And again, it doesn't make much difference for this case, but it can be useful to filter things when you have a large number of boundaries. You'll also notice that the user interface is made up of different pieces. So you have the outline view, you have the task page, you have the graphics window, and you have the console. These have a certain arrangement, and you've already seen how you can resize them by moving the mouse over the borders in between them and dragging. But you can also move them around. So for example, if I click on the console here, I can drag it and place it on top of the graphics window, and now they have a tabbed arrangement. if you get something that's really crazy, then you just want to remember that if you go to the upper right corner of the Fluent window, you can return to the default graphics layout and get back to a sensible looking arrangement. You can also choose between different predefined layouts. So for instance, a lot of people like the tab graphics console layout. And you can experiment with the different layouts here to find the one that you like best. And always remember that you can always go here and restore the default layout if you're having problems. There are some other things in the corner of the window. The question mark icon opens a menu, and you can select the help from here, and there's some other options too. I normally don't like to bring up the help from here, because you can see in each of the task pages there's also a help icon, and what happens is, if I click the help icon, it will go directly to the section of the help for that task page. I normally like to access help that way, but everyone has their own preferences, and you should just know that this can often help you find the relevant part of the user's guide quickly. Next to the help, notice that there's also a quick search box. This can be useful when, for instance, maybe I'm looking for something but don't know where to find it in the Fluent window. So maybe I just want to make a point, so I can just type point, and then there are a whole bunch of options for how I can create a point. And so if I click there, it will bring up the menu for the point surface creation, and I can go ahead and create my point. You probably just noticed when it was showing the quick search results, there was something called TUI, and that stands for Text User Interface. The TUI is not available with the Pro licensing level, but for everybody else, I do want to demonstrate how it works. I'll type check in the quick search box, and it will display some selections from the ribbon, and there's also some selections from the Text User Interface, which we always just call the TUI. So if I pick one of these, for example, mesh check, what happens is it loads up the command down here in the console window, and then if I hit enter, it will execute the command. And if I pull the console window up a little bit, you can see that this is just the mesh check command that we normally do from the domain tab. The reason it's important to know about the TUI is because in many cases you might be at a location where you have to submit your Fluent jobs in batch mode on a high-performance computing cluster. And the way that batch mode job submission works is, along with Fluent, you include what we call a journal file. The journal file includes all of the commands that Fluent will execute during the batch job, and these are in fact TUI commands. The TUI commands are what you include in your journal file so that your Fluent job can run in batch mode. So it's useful to see how that works and to have a basic familiarity with the text user interface. I'll just start by hitting enter here in the console window. You can see that these are all the menus that belong to the TUI. Most of the items have a slash after them, and that indicates a menu, not a command. To see this, I will type mesh and hit enter. This will take me to the mesh menu. Now, whenever you're in a menu and you want to see what choices are available, just hit the enter key, and then it will show you all of the choices for that menu. You can see that some of these choices have slashes, which indicates they are further submenus with even more choices, and some don't, which means they're a command. Remember we just did the mesh check a minute ago, and that was a command, and when you look here in the mesh menu, and then at check, there's no slash at the end. The TUI operates with shorthand, and what that means is, if I type, for instance, MZ, and then hit enter, you can see that it has interpreted that to mean that I wanted to go to modify zones. The way this works is you have to type just enough characters to make a uniquely identifiable correspondence with one of the options in the current menu level, and it will interpret that as if you have typed the whole command, and that can sometimes save you a lot of typing. The way that you navigate in the TUI is that if you want to go up a level, type Q and hit enter, and you can see that now I am back in the mesh menu, and if I type Q one more time, I can go up another level, which in this case is the top level. In whatever level you happen to be in the TUI, hitting the Enter key will show you what options are available at that level. There's one other useful feature associated with the TUI, and that's the auto-completer. It can be activated in Preferences, so I'm going to go to Preferences, and then Appearance, and then auto-completer is here. Let me turn that on and we can see how it works. When the auto-completer is on, as soon as I start to type something in the console window, it shows the options that are available. So in other words, it completes this for me. If I choose Display, then there will be some more choices, and you can see that some of these are menus and some are commands, and I can either use the slider bar on the right or start typing to narrow down the choices, and this can help with navigating through the various selections. Just to do something concrete, I can go back and choose Mesh and then Check, and you can see when I do that, it enters the command on the command line but doesn't execute it. You have to hit the Enter key and then the command will be executed. So just remember that you can turn this on or off under File Preferences and then in the Appearance category. In this video, you've seen how to make use of usability features such as filtering and the quick search panel, and also how to use the TUI. And so that's all for this video. Thank you for watching.